Hey, this is Keith Perrin, co-founder of FUBU the Collection and founder of FUBU Radio.com. You're tuned in to the Dove Barron Leadership and Loyalty Show. I'm going to give you guys a few jewels today. I hope you tune in. And I got one secret. Remember, it's about homework. Stay tuned.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dove Barron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dove Barron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dove Barron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us here on this episode of Dove Barron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, part of the Full Monty interview series, where today we will look at what it takes to go from being a 14-year-old street hustler to running a brand that reports over $6 billion in retail sales. If you're a new listener, a new viewer to our show, strap yourself in. We're about to go full Monty. If you're a regular listener, big thank you to you because you have made us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners. We're honored that we're also cited by Inc. magazine as the #1 podcast to make you a better leader, and GNA cited us in the top 10 podcast for human resources and managers. So we're right up there. We really thank you for that. Thank you for all of you for sharing the show with everybody you know. And remember, as always, we need your help in staying relevant. So get yourself over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. Watching and listening to this show, you're either a high-level leader, executive, entrepreneur, sales leader, one of those things. And in that capacity, as a leader in any of those forms, you know that the truth of business is knowing what it takes, really takes, to go from where you are to extraordinary. Furthermore, if you're going to make it in the long term, you also better know what you are doing and when to stop doing what previously worked, because leadership means the adaptability as well. Our guest today has a legendary reputation for knowing these things. His name is Keith Perrin. Keith Perrin is an accomplished entrepreneur who has successfully introduced FUBU, a game-changing apparel brand that currently reports over $6 billion in retail sales to date. A vice president and director of marketing, Keith was the point person that placed FUBU in dozens of music videos, photo shoots, concerts, TV appearances, and even movies. His relationship with music artists and dozens of celebrities is on a first-name private access basis, and he's been the mainstay of the FUBU strategy for years. In his role, he has also been the point person dealing directly with key retail accounts that were FUBU's primary retail outlets. He has 3 partners, Daymond John, who you might know from Shark Tank, Carl Brown, and J. Alexander Martin, and they realized extraordinary celebrity status, literally changing the way business viewed the role of young, multicultural entrepreneurs in America. In recognition of Keith's contribution to the fashion industry and business management skills, he's been honored by many prestigious awards, including Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year back in 2003, Crane's Business 40 Under 40 in 2004. Keith grew up in Queens, New York, and through the wise, and him and I have had chats about this, the wise upbringing and encouragement of his single-parent mother, he began working at age 14. By 18, he'd established himself in the New York real estate market as a rental agent, and finally as a property manager of 200 units in a Harlem complex, making him the youngest manager of that company. Even with his very busy schedule, Keith manages to give back to his community and assist those less fortunate than himself with charitable donations, mentorship, and his time. Keith speaks to schools, colleges, and corporations and the Boys and Girls Club. At this time, his newest project is it launched back in Christmas Eve of 2015, which is FUBU Radio, and it's taken off like a rocket. Keith is the CEO and general manager of the station, where he oversees the administrative and business functions. Today, FUBU Radio plays the best of old school hip-hop and R&B, and also showcases amazing mixes of the hottest DJs in the country. Additionally, FUBU Radio will feature on-air personalities later this year, hot topics including everything from current affairs to celebrity rumors, comedy, fashion, relationships, advice, and way more. So please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Keith Perrin. Woo! Come on.
What's up? What's up?
You got it, man. They're all standing for you. Good to have you here, Keith. Fabulous to have you on the show. They just won't stop. How are you, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hanging in there.
It's good to have you on. And as I said, you and I met, it must be almost a year ago now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I was in New York speaking at a couple of events and reached out, and you and I connected, and what a great guy. I mean, I came back and said, one of the things that I have learned in the work that I do, and I'm very blessed to have done, is I get to work with high-powered, high-level individuals that are extremely successful. And one of the things I've known more than anything is that the people at the top, really at the top, have very little ego and are always tremendously generous. And I came back and talked to a few people about it, and you really personified that, mate. So I just want you to know that I appreciate you, and I'm really glad to have you on the show.
All right, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, mate. So let's talk about the beginning. Let's go back in time, not all the way, but the beginning of FUBU. Because you guys did something. One of the things that when I advise an organization and we're working on culture and brand and all those kinds of things, one of the things I talk about is the power of emotion and how important emotion is. And yeah, you've got to have your business logical strategies, but emotion is vital. And you guys knew how to tap into that because before you even had a FUBU line, you had T-shirts that were about Rodney King and Mike Tyson, and you got out there and sold those on the street corners. Tell us how you knew to tap into that.
Well, we didn't actually know much back then. I mean, everything was a trial and error. But I know when in 1992, when that Rodney King thing happened, Daymond was like, he was looking at it like, hey, let's go out here and sell these shirts and see how much, how we can do. We went out there to DC and I mean, we must have had about 1,000 shirts. And we sold those shirts within like the first 4 or 5 hours that we were out there. And we were like, wow, we can make a lot of money selling shirts. Like, they were only like $10. Like, we only charged $10, but we kind of got the bug right there. And then I know Daymond had already, prior to 1992, Daymond had came up to us and said that he was going to start this clothing line, and he wanted to start a clothing line, and he wanted to have us help him, get it off the ground. So doing that DC trip was just a natural progression to what we were already kind of doing or setting up to do. And we went out there, we sold all the shirts, and we came back and we were like, wow, we had all this money, and we were like, wow, this is great. We really sold all, because we didn't think we were going to sell all those shirts. That's, and that's the problem in retail. Like you get into a situation, a clothing situation, and you never know how it's going to go. The consumer's going to receive it, and if you're going to be able to be successful. So we went out there and we sold the shirts, and then once we came back, we had the bug, and then we figured out, okay, let's get our own thing going now.
But it's interesting to me that you chose, like I said, an evocative, emotional content T-shirt. With the Mike Tyson who'd just been sent to jail, and you guys have done a show that says set him free, and the Rodney King thing. I mean, those things were very hot, emotional subjects. And I don't know, maybe it was intuitive, or maybe it was just instinct, but you knew that was the key. Because when I look at the FUBU brand and the progression of the brand, it's something you guys have always known how to do. And I think that so often it's missed in business. You've known how to tap into the emotional vein of your market.
Right. I don't know. I just think that's just us, knowing, just growing up in our neighborhood and knowing how to, like you said, tap into that. It wasn't like we were really trying to make a profit, because it wasn't really about the profit, even though we made a ton of money off of it, but it was more about getting the message out. to
Sure.
other people. And like I said, we had a product we didn't know was going to do that well.
Right.
And sometimes it takes that. You have to know when to push the button and sometimes when to fall back. So we push the button at the right time. And we always say timing is everything.
Well, let's get into that pushing the button piece, because after an appearance at a trade show in Las Vegas, you and your partners, we talked about Daymond John, Jay Alexander, Carl Brown, you managed to sell $400,000 worth of clothing that didn't exist yet. And at that point, you guys could have literally got crushed under your own success, but you decided to step up and just really go all in. And I read that Daymond was turned down by 27 banks for loans. Tell us about that moment when you've got this monstrous set of orders and no gear,
we were trying to. Now I'm gonna take you back a little bit, because what we were trying to do was we were trying to elevate the brand.
Yes.
So we didn't understand. We were like, okay, how can we go to the next level?
Sure.
It's we're out here, we're selling in the Black Expo. We're selling on the street corners and every event we're selling at, but this is not going to take us to that next level. Now, how can we get to the next level? And then I remember someone giving us information about the Magic Show, the men's apparel show in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because Magic stands for Men's Apparel Guild in California, and it's in Vegas. So we were like, okay, no problem.
David Copperfield, what is this?
So when we started the process, it was like, okay, how can we get to the next level? This is how we're going to get to the next level. We have to get to this show. We have to pull our resources together. I was actually unable to go to the show due to my property manager responsibilities. I just couldn't take off a week at that time. It was like the end of the month too, and I had
rent to collect.
Yeah, and I was responsible for, I think it was about $6 million budget that I had to have done at the end of the month, at end of every month. So I couldn't just take off, and I actually sent my cousin. He's like 6'5" and 290. So I was like, hey, he can carry the bags and he can help you guys do whatever you guys need.
Worst comes to worst, he's a workhorse.
Yeah, So he actually went down there with them, and I was calling the whole time like, how's it going? How's it going?
Sure.
And they were like, it's going good. It's going good. We'll talk to you when we get back. And when they came back, we all lived in the same house. So when they came back, I was like, man, we wrote all $300,000 in orders. Oh my God. And then we start jumping around and having, we already, hit the lottery or something. And then
sure.
The reality.
Reality sets in.
Okay, how the hell are we going to make $300,000 worth of clothes? We don't even have $1,000 in the bank right now. How are we going to get this done? And so the partying turned to sadness after about 10 minutes, and we were sitting here, and his mother came in, and she saw our faces, and she said, well, what are you guys doing? Why are you looking like that? So we explained to her the situation, and then she said, well, why don't you put an ad in the New York Times saying that you guys have $1 million in orders and you need financing? And we said, well, we don't have $1 million in orders. All we have is 300,000. She said, put an ad in the paper saying you have $1 million in orders. So he was like, oh, okay, we get it. And she actually was the one who did it for us. And, at that time, it was like shooting in the wind. Hey, is anybody going to call? Or, is this thing going to work? Are we going to be able to pull this off? And, we started getting calls from all kind of mobsters and shady characters. And they were like, hey, what do you need? You need $10 million? No problem. Let's hook up next week. And, we're for, guys from the hood. And we're like, are you serious? Nobody's going to call us and offer us $10 million over the phone. They haven't even met us.
Right.
And then, it just became that journey of trying to weed out the bad seeds. And then, we got that call from Samsung, and then that changed our life.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So, of course, you say it changed your life. The FUBU brand started to really take off. And just for those who don't know, FUBU stands for you, by you. And, you know...
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
For us, by us.
For us, by us. Thank you.
And I just want to clear it up because a lot of times the meaning gets misconstrued. It's, you know, yes, we're four black guys who created this brand, and you know, and we appreciate all our customers. But it really wasn't about a black thing. It was about culture,
right?
You know, and we were saying that, you know, all of these brands come into our neighborhoods and, you know, into our communities, and, you know, they feed off of us. They produce these clothes that, you know, we were wearing ski jackets in the hood, and it wasn't even snowing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
we were taking their product and turning it into what we wanted to turn into, kind of making it ours. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, these companies were not invested in our communities. These companies wasn't, you know, giving back. They wasn't doing anything for us. Yet we're making them all rich.
Yeah.
So, you know, at the time we were like, wow, I wish we can change this. You know, I mean, we wish something that can be done. And then I know we were like, you know what, we're going to become this big brand and we're going to sell all over the world. And, you know, we had these big goals and aspirations. But once we got to the point where we were like, okay, this thing is, this is it. This is where we're going with it. We just stepped out on faith, and you know, it just happened. And like I said earlier, timing was everything. You know, that can't happen today. You know, that won't happen today. You know, there's not going to be another FUBU because of the consumers and how fickle they are these days. So
it's a different market altogether.
$400 million urban companies out there. You won't see it. And then on top of that, Timberland came out and put an ad in the paper saying that they didn't want drug dealers and these sorts of people in these urban communities wearing their brand. And we all sitting around and we're like, why would they say that? Like, who cares who's buying your product? Like, it doesn't matter as long as it's moving off the shelf. And then we looked down and everybody had on Timberlands, and we were like, wow, like, okay. Now, when you think about it, you know, we're the ones who's making you rich. You know, we're the ones buying 2 and 3 pair of damn Timberlands a month. You know, you got thousands of young guys in the community buying all these Timberlands when we don't need 2 or 3 pair of boots a month.
No.
If they get scuffed, we have to get a new pair. So that was our philosophy back then. So are you trying to sell to us, or are you trying to sell to the construction worker who's going to buy 1 pair of boots and wear them for the next 4 years?
Right.
You know, so we are the people who are making you rich, so you should never come out and say that. So we felt, and the name was actually born out of that, because when we were in the house, we were like, man, we need a name, you know, that's synonymous with you know, like Coke and Puma, a 4-letter word name, and we just couldn't figure it out. And then he was like, well, you know what? It's just time that we make some stuff that's by us and that's for us. And then Daymond was like, oh. Then he's like, Boo-foo.
Yeah.
We were like,
oh, it was Boo-foo first.
No. He was like, no, Boo-foo's not going to work. That sounds crazy. That sounds like, it just doesn't sound right. And then we said, well, how about for us, by us?
Yeah.
And then we were like, FUBU. Well, it sounds kind of African, maybe, you know, Chinese and stuff. Like, we didn't know, you know. We were like, well, you know, let's run with it. And we ran with it, and then wound up working out.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Now, of course, it took off like a rocket, did exceptionally well. But, you know, you just said yourself that if somebody tried to do that today, it wouldn't work. And, of course, markets change. And one of the biggest mistakes in business is, well, this is what we do. It's been successful. We're going to keep doing it. And there's a need to be adaptable and notice. And except for the footwear division, by 2003, FUBU was out of the U.S. market, and went on to build Europe and Asia. Talk to us about that need to pull away from the U.S. With the changing market, how things had changed from the glory to now going, okay, we got to go out there and away from our home ground.
So I want to say when we first got on, it was about late '95, going into '96. And we had a deal with Samsung, said that if you guys have to make $5 million in the first 3 years, or we either take your name or you guys pay us back. And we were like, fine, and we were determined to work our behinds off and try to, make that goal. And but I talked earlier about the Black Expo, and the Black Expo I didn't know was so instrumental in our success, because we kept doing all these Black Expos. We did one in, I think, DC, Atlanta, New York. We did a bunch in New York, but we started traveling a couple of times wherever we could, and if we had the money to travel, we would go to these other shows in different states, and we did that for like 2 or 3 years. So when you couldn't find us in any stores, so everybody kept coming back to the Black Expo. So then once we were actually in stores, they just flocked to the stores, and it was pandemonium. Mm-hmm. So that helped us secure that $5 million in the first season. And then we went on from the fall season, we went to spring, and then that spring we made $30 million. And then we never looked back from there. We just kept going.
So why did you pull out of the U.S. as a focal market?
The reason we didn't really pull out of the U.S., we thought, okay, you're talking to 4 kids from, like I said, from the hood, and, and we're thinking, okay, we might have 3 years at this, the most. Maybe we get a store out of this, and we'll be able to, run a store or something like that. We had no idea it was going to take off and be, such a huge thing. But after those 3 years were up, it was like 1999, and we started like, okay, this thing is going to be over. This thing is going to be over. Mm. And it wasn't. It was still climbing. So we were like, okay, it's definitely going to be over next year. So we need to figure out what we're going to do to keep this thing going. And what we did was we hooked up with a guy, my guy Bernd Ullman, who headed up our licensing division overseas. So what he did was he went over there and he got us all of these licensees from all these different countries, and we wound up opening up 200 stores overseas. So once we started to do that, we were like a little relaxed a little bit, but still, like, what are we going to do with the New York thing? Starting to slow down. You got Rockaware coming in, taking part of our market. You got Sean John taking a part of our market. And then, once we got into like 2000, 2001, it was like, okay, this thing is definitely going to be over soon. Sales started to go down, and it wasn't like a crash. Like it just slowly came down like a plane. And then, by 2003, we were already set up overseas, making tons of money overseas. And then, we kind of said, we shot our load here. We actually put too much product out here because we thought this thing was going to be over, and it kind of hurt us. But what really hurt us here, and I won't say it was a little over distribution, and then we had about $25 million worth of goods in the warehouse, so we had to liquidate that. So we started to liquidate that, got it down, I think, to about $10 million, and then we had a whole bunch of product in there that fell on the floor, got dirty, or so we put all that stuff to the side, and it was a couple of big tons of boxes on the side. And then what we did was we like, what are we gonna do with this product? Like, all right, let's do a good deed and give this to some of the homeless shelters and clothe people who don't have clothes. Wow. I mean, the product was already 2-3 years old. Right. Some of them, we didn't actually give them any new product, but we gave them a lot of old product. So what happened was you started seeing all these guys walking around with FUBU on, and so I started getting complaints, like people call me, man, y'all got bums walking around here with better FUBU on than me, man. I just saw this bum walk by me. And I'm like, dude, it's a guy who needed some stuff, man, and he's down in his luck, and we did a good deed, and, we were able to supply him with some clothes. We don't look at him as a bum. We just look at him as a person who needs help. Sure. So that good deed, though, turned into I'm not wearing it because the bums are wearing it, or homeless people are wearing it. And I'm like, you're so insensitive, man. Like that dude, if you know us and you know that, our style, those clothes are from 3-4 years ago. So that was a major thing. And another major thing that kind of hurt us is we started to do collaborations with Bill Cosby, Muhammad Ali, and then we did one with the Harlem Globetrotters. So what we decided to do was just to take 20% of our brand and dedicate that to the collaboration. Mm-hmm. The other 80% would continue to help us run the company, pay the employees, and do all that stuff. Because there was a cuts that had to come out of that money for those collaborations to Muhammad Ali, Bill Cosby, and so forth. So the consumer didn't want the regular FUBU anymore. And we were like, whoa, wait a minute here. This is running our business. Like, and everybody wanted platinum FUBU, and we were like, all right, what are we gonna do then? Do we have to ship these clothes back and put platinum in front of the FUBU so they will buy this? Like, what do we do? Right. But it was some key factors that hurt us. I think over distribution was one of them. Being that we were just coming in the game and we didn't realize how much of a lifespan we would have in this business.
Well, that's what I was saying before about knowing we've done something, it works, and so often in business we do something that works and we want to hold on to it for dear life, like it is the answer, like it's the Holy Grail, and somehow business, life, the markets, whatever it is, slaps you upside the head and says, You know what, you got to adjust a little bit. And you guys did. I mean, obviously you did because, you've grown and grown and grown. And as a result, now you're coming back with a new line, which is your retro line. So old is new again. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, a couple of years ago, I looked up on Snapchat, not Snapchat, Instagram, and someone in the office had started it. And I remember them requesting me, and I accepted it, and I followed them. And then, I never really paid attention to the page because I was doing a ton of other things. And then when everything started to become really popular, I looked at the page, and we had 3 followers, and we were following 10 people. 4 of those people were us, and then a couple of other random people. And then 3 of the people that were following the brand was us.
Right.
And Daymond, I guess he has so much things going on. He didn't even get a chance to follow it. So I looked at it and I just felt like it was a poor representation of the company. I said, we're sitting here, we have tons of archives and photos that haven't even been seen. Let me take this over and see what I can do with it. So I started working on the social media. And then Daymond was like, well, you know the company best. You know how to talk to these people. And, why don't you run it? So I got a couple of people, me and one of my other partners, we help, we run it together. Mm-hmm. And, we started to get it up to a point where now it's, it has some legs on it. You know what I mean? But just back then, it was sad to see that it wasn't a great representation of us on social media.
But now the retro has become huge, right?
But when I started it, to answer your question, when I started it and I started working on it, everybody started sending me pictures of clothing they were buying on eBay. And I'm looking at stuff, and I'm like, and then from vintage shops and, people who donate clothes to thrift shops and stuff like that. So I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, they're just buying all the old stuff. And stuff. And then they were taking it and getting it tailored to them. And then I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, they're just buying all this old stuff. So we were sitting around one day, and then just the demand was like, when are you guys going to put out some more stuff? I don't want to buy all this stuff from eBay. I want you guys to put out new stuff. So we heard them, we listened, and we heard them. And then we were like, you know what? Maybe we don't come out with a new... with new designs. Maybe we just give them something that's old, but it's new.
Yeah.
And, everybody agreed that would be the way to go. And then even this time around, we're putting out like we just did this Evansville collaboration. We put out 48 pieces.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It's like 48 pieces, and you don't get it, it's gone, Yeah. And then, and then also they're forcing us to go back in and restock it because they're buying it up so fast. So it's a good thing, a good problem to have. But we definitely want to just limit the number of pieces that we put out this time. So it just makes it a little, makes it that much more valuable than it was before.
So FUBU has been fairly synonymous with hip hop celebrity. Mm-hmm. And, maybe I'm sure things are very different today than they would have been starting when you guys started. But, you were 4 kids. Mm-hmm. How did you get your stuff in the hands of these really hip hop superstars and celebrities? I was reading about one of them. It was I love LL Cool J. I think he's great. I always loved his music. But he does a Gap ad where he raps and throws FUBU in there whilst wearing a FUBU hat. And they're discrepant. I think it was like a $30 million commercial. You guys got in where people couldn't. Did you already have those established relationships?
Well, we grew up in hip hop, and being from Queens, we had the likes of Russell Simmons and LL Cool J, Salt and Pepper, and Run DMC, and all these people just in the neighborhood. We would go to the park, and then you see all these fancy cars pull up, and then you'll see Jam Master Jay get out with his turntables and equipment and stuff and set up, and we're like, oh man, it's going down tonight, and we would stay in the park all night. There were no fights. There were no cops. We didn't need cops to come there and watch us, and we just had fun, and it was good. It was a good time back then. So when I actually, this is before I actually met Daymond, but I met Daymond when I was 15 in school, and he just became a good friend, and we hung out every day in school and after school, and then we just became tight. And one day he said, you want to go on tour with LL? And I'm like, what? LL Cool J? What are you talking about? He's like, we're going to go on tour with LL. So I was like 16, I think 16. Mm-hmm. Yeah, about 16. And what happened was he said, listen, I'm going to need you to bring maybe about $100. And we'll all chip in. We'll all stay in the same room. Just, we'll all pay. We only need, one night in the room. So we'll just pay, and then you'll have extra money for food or whatever. So I went to my mother and I said, Mom, can I go out of town with Daymond? We're going to this LL Cool J concert. And I just knew she was. I've never been out of town prior to that. So I'm like on my own actually. So I was just crossing my fingers, and when she said yes, I was like, ooh. And back then we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so she gave me $40, $50 to go. And then I just told Daymond, I was like, listen, man, I only got $50. He's like, don't worry about it, you'll be good with that. And we went on tour, and then it kind of bit us because we were around all these people, Big Daddy Kane, Eric B. and Rakim, EPMD, Salt Pepper was on that tour, Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh, of course LL, Run DMC was on that tour.
Wow.
And it was just amazing. To be 16, to have backstage passes, to be able to walk through everywhere, all access passes, it was incredible. And then what happened was, that was late 80s. So when the 90s came, then you had people like Nas, you had people like Busta Rhymes. These guys were just starting their careers.
Right.
So when we started going to all the videos via Hype Williams, the director Hype Williams, who was a good friend of ours, and we started meeting all these people. And then, and at the time we only had 7 to 10 shirts. So we would put them on people.
Of course. Take them off. You put it on now.
Yeah. Sometimes we wash them. Sometimes we clean them. Sometimes
we don't. Not.
But, we just had these shirts, and we were going around to every set. And these are major sets. We did LL set. We did Busta Rhymes. We did Miss Jones in her video when she first came out. So these are the brand Nubians we did when, back then. And these guys were fairly new. So we developed relationships with them. Some of them used to come to the house and pick up shirts. And another group that I want to pay homage to is the group Onyx, because Fredro Starr is one of the main reasons why we got our deal because we met with the guys from Samsung, and it didn't fly the first meeting. So Daymond came back, and we were all excited, like, how did it go? And he's like, I don't know. He said he's gonna call. I'm like, shit, And then after that, Fredro Starr, one of the lead guys of Onyx, called us and said, hey, I'm shooting New York Undercover, and I need some clothes. I need some shirts. I'll stop by later on. So he came by, we gave him a bunch of shirts, and he went out to shoot the show, and he got killed in the shirt. So he got killed in the shirt. It was in slow motion on national TV. It must have taken him about 30 seconds to die, to fall, not even die, to fall.
Right, to fall.
Because it was one of this angle, and it was from this angle. It was just so many different angles, and we were sitting there watching TV, like, oh my God, look at y'all! He was cracking up, jumping around, and then the next day the phone rang, and the guy called us and said, hey, I see you guys still doing your thing. You want to set up another meeting? And we set up another meeting, and that was it.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What a lot of these other clothing lines really couldn't understand about us was what you asked me. How did we develop these relationships? And it was just early on knowing who you think would be hot and just trying to go after them and not really, trying to place your clothes on them. Just talking to them, just kicking it with them and getting to know them personally. And we just developed a lot of relationships early on. So as, time progressed and it was 8-9 years later, we've been dealing with these guys for 8 or 9 years, and then at that time they were like, "Oh man, I took this to the next level, man. Send me whatever you're gonna do. I'll wear," because they wanted to support. So they were like, "Send me whatever you got, and I'll support you."
Amazing. What is the one thing you see that FUBU has done brilliantly that that you wish other companies would do if they were coming to you and you were advising them? What is the one thing that FUBU has done brilliantly that you wish they would do?
That's a great question. Be as nice to us as we were to them. No, and that's an issue too. But we'll cross that path another day because a lot of these companies, they didn't want to acknowledge us.
No,
I couldn't understand why because. I'm like, okay, we're doing well, and we're doing well, and we're in all these stores, and we're making all these millions of dollars, but when you speak about fashion or clothing, you dare not to mention our name. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't understand it. Like, they would name every other clothing company under the sun and would never say FUBU. And the conversations we had with the big guys, the Macy's, the Federated guys, they were like, who do you guys want to surround yourself with? Okay, go get Rockaware, go get Sean John, go get Nietzsche, go get these other brands, and let's make our own section.
Right.
Because it's the only way it's going to work. You can't put me next to Ralph Lauren or these other brands, Calvin Klein. It's not that.
No.
So once they figured that out and understood who we needed to be surrounded with, it started to work, and it started to be that urban collection, or and most of these guys wouldn't have not had a chance if it wasn't for us saying, go get this company, go get that company, make sure you surround us with these guys, and But I don't know. The one thing I'm trying to figure out, I don't know, but man, you're digging deep on that, man.
That's good. Well, if it comes to your brain while we're still recording, you can spit it out.
I'm trying to think, I know we did a lot of stuff, charity-wise.
Right.
And I really wish there could have been more unity amongst us, which there was a lot of unity, but not enough that we could stand alone and then just come together, as opposed to, we're always going to be competitors.
Right.
That's a given. But to come together for the greater of the of the fashion industry and try to make something that was not there, and I don't think
one of the central philosophies in my last book, which I know you've got, which is called Fiercely Loyal. One of the things we talked about in that is the power of collaboration, and that very many of the people that are quote unquote my competition are not my competition. I actually collaborate with them. We work together. We do things together because the greater good is to serve our clients. And it seems like that seems to be the undercurrent of the message you were just sharing is how do we collaborate for the greater good? And I think that very often in business, we get that singular mindset and we go, oh, I can't talk to them or involve myself with them because they're different than us, or they're competitive with us, rather than saying what's unique about us that we could come together and add more value. And that seemed to be the message of what you were sharing there. Yes,
exactly. That's exactly what I was saying.
Very cool.
You had all these powerhouses, these $200-300 million companies. Who's to say what we could have did together?
Exactly. Yeah.
But it just never panned out that way. And then a lot of people, to me, they always look down on us, and I never understood why. It was like, oh, you guys are not real designers. Who cares? If we actually design or not? We have the skill set to sit down at a conference table and put together year after year these successful lines. So if I'm actually drawing it or I'm not, who cares?
You see, this is the point that I think is a vital point for everybody to get, because we've discussed this many times on this show. We talk about millennials and how people see millennials as entitled little shits and they don't really get it. They haven't paid their dues. And my question to that is always the same. Do they get the job done? If they get the job done, but they didn't go about it the way that you think it should be done, is that any reason to disrespect it or to in some way downplay it? And because you guys didn't do it the traditional ways of going to Paris and getting a designer or whatever it may be, you still produced a high performance brand year after year. And that really is, what you're talking about there is exactly it. I think the reason you were snubbed is because you weren't traditional. And the old school was like, well, we've been to that school, and you guys didn't do that. You created a product that worked. And this is the same in business across the board. If you've got a millennial coming up who's 22, 23 years old in your company and you're 40 and you're going, they've only been out of school 10 minutes. Listen, they may be your gold and you need to hold on to them. You need to do what it takes. And that's what you described. As a growing brand, which you're obviously still growing your company externally in the marketplace, I'm going to ask you a tough question. Where do you still need to get better? Because the world has changed. The marketplace has changed.
We're definitely evolving with them. We surrounded ourselves with a ton of millennials. We have at least on average 20 college students, interns here every, all throughout the year.
Mm.
So with us, I would never say, okay, we need to get better. Now we're here and we're straight.
Right.
It's always improvement. There's always room for improvement. With us here, it's like everybody, we were always considered the FUBU guys.
Yeah.
Right? So now that Daymond has went off and done this whole thing with Shark Tank, which I'm extremely proud to just see him up there and handling his business and from where we came from, it just makes me super proud of him. But it kind of catapulted him. He's always been the CEO, but it catapulted him in the limelight. And everybody's saying, well, what happened to the other three guys? What are they doing? And, they must have fell off or he must have left them behind. And, Daymond is a great friend. He's a loyal friend. He will be a friend to the end until you, just totally screw him over. And, with us, what me and my partners decided was, okay, it's now time for us to individually let people know who we are and what we can do and how we can, handle certain things and make things grow. So we kind of took, Jay, one of my partners, he said to me about 4 years ago, I want to do this TV, digital type of thing with us and kind of give us another platform. And, it'd be great for us to like actually have our own TV station. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, okay, all right, and I'm not shooting him down, but I'm like, wow, this guy's like really thinking, he's putting the bar way up there. And then he went out and he walked the pavement, did everything he needed to do to actually get it off the ground. And now it's actually off the ground. He's getting content. He's getting great content on there. And it's still small, but it's growing.
Sure.
Carl actually started a few things. He worked with us on our hair products, which unfortunately we didn't actually, because everybody was all spread out, we didn't actually jump on it when we should have jumped on it. He was just kind of, doing his thing with it. And once we got on it, the stores were like, okay, we need some sales. You guys need to hurry up and do what you need to do so we can get this thing off the ground. But it just wasn't enough time for us to get behind it and make it work. Mm-hmm. So that kind of fell short. But it produced a great product, hair product to the community, and we get great reviews about it. And then he also stepped into the hotel business. So he's now working on a Hotel FUBU. He just secured some financing for a hotel down in Selma, Alabama, a historic hotel down there. So I couldn't make it a couple of months ago when he went down, but because I was helping relaunch the brand here. But it's just good to see that everybody's kind of stepping out and doing their thing. Now we're about to break ground on this. We have a couple more set up after this. So it's just now trying to expand the name and see how we can make it popular in other circles.
So the idea is to make FUBU a brand that is not just synonymous with clothing,
yes,
but is a bigger thing. And which of course takes us into FUBU Radio, which is your baby.
Yeah, that's my baby. Me, I just... I used to go out when we first started FUBU. I used to go out to LA like 97, 98, and even back in 96. And I would get in the car at LAX, rent a car, and I would drive to the hotel. And that drive from LAX to Beverly Hills, I turn on the radio and they would play like a West Coast song, and they would play an East Coast song, then they would play an old school song, and then R&B song, and they just mixed it up. And I used to be like, wow, this radio is so great out here. And I used to live to go to LA to listen to the radio.
That drive. Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I used to live for that. And then what happened was, out here, these large corporations bought up all the radio stations and created basically one playlist for all their stations. Yeah. So everywhere you go, you hear the same song all day. And then, and I know now that I'm running the station, I know it's challenging to try to keep the playlist at up to date and where everybody's going to like everything. You just can't please everybody. But it just got boring. So when satellite radio came out, I started paying for that. And I really don't like paying for radio because I just feel like that's retarded, but I would pay for radio just to hear other stations that will play something different.
Yeah.
Just, we got 2 stations here. 3, really. Now they're trying to add a 4th one, but the 4th one has static. You can never hear it anyway. So, but we have 2 stations here. We had 97, 98.7, and then 107.5, and then 105.1. 98.7 became a sports channel. So now we only got 97.1, 105, and then 107.5, which plays like the R&B stuff.
Sure.
Now between these 2 stations, you can go from one station like, oh, I don't want to hear that, turn to the next station, and then be playing the exact same song at the exact same time. So you're like, oh, Jesus. And then, it just got to a point where I was just frustrated, and a good friend of mine, down in North Carolina, he just was like, listen, you guys need to start a radio station. And I'm like, start a radio station? Man, I ain't got time to start no radio station. Are you crazy? Like, man, you know how much work I'm doing right now? I don't got time to do that. Where I'm going to put it? I started giving him all the negatives, and he was like, listen, radio's moving online. Everybody's working off their phones, and soon they're gonna have wireless in the cars, and this is years ago. So I'm looking at him like, man. So he started, okay, you don't believe me? He started sending me all kinds of literature.
Yeah.
For about a year, and then I was like, you know what? Let's do it. So our only holdup was we were trying to figure out where we were going to put it because we were moving out of the Empire State Building. So then I was like, well, we're moving to a new office. I've already got it set up where Damon's already told me where I can put it. But then when we got over here, it became a little cluttered. So we needed that space. So we weren't able to do it. So I told him, I said, hey, you run it from down there, and I'll run it from up here, and I'll do whatever I need to do up here to help you down there. And it's been really great. I play a lot of old school hip hop and R&B, and I try to change up the playlist every now and again, so you're not just hearing the same thing.
Radio is a fascinating subject because, for those of us who are a little older, like myself, I remember radio very well, and I actually had my own radio show, and it was interesting because I didn't pick up my radio. I've been doing this for 8 years. As you know, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a trainer, but I do this as well, and I love this. Right. But when I started this, radio was still in place a little 8 years ago. And I hired a coach, and she said to me, if we go back 10 years, I can get you $1 million a year as a radio host. You are fantastic. She goes, but I can't get you that anymore. And I said, why? She says, because the only radio that exists is right-wing radio with the crazy people screaming and shouting and making a big fuss for talk radio, or it is these, as you said, the Fox radio that is just the same bloody playlist. And it's become, on both sides, it's become so homogenized, whether it's talk radio, there's sports and there's right-wing, or there's homogenized music. And it's so great that you've created something, and I know you're going to have a lot more of the talk radio in there too, of different kinds, but you're creating something that brings back the beauty of radio in a way that people don't have to deal with the old stuff they had to deal with, but they can actually consume what they want. I love it.
Right. Thank you.
I have a question for you. I believe, and this is me, and you and I have sat down, we've had coffee, we've hung out, we've had lots of talks, and I've been to that great office of yours that you were just talking about. But I believe that the people who are successful, whatever that means to them, are obsessed. I didn't say that there's a spirit guiding them, but I mean they're obsessed with something. There's something that if it comes on the radio, you can't help but listen to it. If there's a TV show, you have to watch it. If there's a movie about it, you have to see it. If there's a magazine article, you have to read it. If you're at a social event that's somehow not connected, but the subject comes up, you have to talk about it.
Right.
What are you obsessed with?
What am I obsessed with? I'm obsessed with success. And it's not a money thing for me. It's not about money because, I learned early on that success doesn't equate to having money, and money doesn't equate to having success. I just want to be successful, and I just want to leave a legacy, a great legacy. When you talk about me, and so far I've done a great job. We've done a great job as a group of guys. So now I feel like, okay, we've done this together. Now I need to do something on my own because I was already becoming a successful person prior to this on my own.
Sure.
With the job that I had. I was running 200 apartments. I got the job when I was 20 years old. Yeah. I walk in the door and I got 65-year-old guys walking up to me like, how the hell did you get this job? You're my boss. I'm 65 and you're my boss. And at me at 20, I looked like a baby. I was straight baby. I had barely any facial hair, anything. So I want to be successful in my own right. I want to leave I already have the FUBU guys' legacy.
Right.
I want to keep Perrin legacy.
Wonderful.
And that's what I'm kind of working towards now because, it's been a long time that we've done this thing together. So it's only right for us to start branching out and doing our own things and just becoming successful. there's a couple things I have one regret.
Sure.
One regret. I went down to BET back in, I think it was like 2000, and I applied for the hosting job. And I got it. And I turned it down. I went all the way down there. Wow, these guys and all the producers and Stephen Hill and everybody. And I got the job. He said, the job is yours. Just this is the time. And I you know, I was so much thinking about my guys and our group and our company, and which I could have still managed both. But I was so afraid of me not being here that I would somehow lose out or not be informed, or, you know, things would happen, because it was a fast pace. So everything was moving. You know, you miss a meeting, you miss a lot. So I didn't want to miss too much of what was going on here. And I didn't know until later on that I could have done both. And then when I saw that, you know, I look at a Terrence J who transitioned, good great friend of mine, who transitioned from BET host to extra host, you know, host, you know. Right. And I look at people like, because the person who got my job was actually AJ. Him and Free was together. So, and I look at him and I see him on extra, and I'm like, wow, these guys are like correspondents, and they're like doing all this extra stuff, and you know, it's bigger than, you know. I always look at things in a grander scale. You know, I always look at everything as a stepping stone. So I already knew that if I take this job, once I got this job, I was going to try to go and do something else and take that, and you know, so you know, and to elevate myself. And I didn't take it, and I always sit back and wonder what would have been. And I don't regret anything else in my life. No, I don't. You know, I take everything as it comes, but
it's a different path.
One thing that I always say, Jesus, you know, how would my life have turned out? Where would I be now? Sure. You know, like I said, these guys are not going nowhere. We're always going to be able to make money together. We always, you know, work together in some capacity. Because like even now, you got one guy over here, one goes over here. Daymond is on the road all the time. I'm kind of stationed right here all the time to help run this company here. And it's like, you know, where would you have been if you would have, you know, just made that choice, a different choice at that time?
Very interesting. So what's the most practical thing that you've shared today that you would want entrepreneurs to hold on to?
You know what? I don't think we touched on that enough, but one thing that I tell everybody, and when I speak to them is, and I know Daymond definitely echoes this in his speeches, but it's just the plain truth. You have to do your homework. I never liked doing homework in school, right? I never, you know, I was smart. I could come in the day of and do my homework, but I would always not do my homework. And teacher failed me one time and was like, you know the work, you just won't do it. So as I got older, I started seeing what that actually meant in the workspace. So now I tell a lot of these entrepreneurs, do your homework, do your research. You know, you might have a nice idea, but you never know how many other people are thinking about that. Sure. You know, you're not the only person out here. You know, sit down, figure out what lane you want to go into, research that lane, see how many other people are in that lane, and if it's going to be fruitful for you to go that way, or should you think about something else and kind of zig when they're zagging. So it's all about doing your research and doing your homework and just following up and figuring out everything you need to know about the business that you're going into. Because cool. I get all the time, hey, I got this line, all I need you to do is invest, and those days are over. Right. Those days are over. They're literally over. So the process today is to start small and just start, though. That's the key. Just start. Start small. Use your own money. Figure out the best ways to utilize your money and have your money work for you. You have social media. We didn't have social media. I wish we did have social media back in the days. I mean, it was so much going on that we had to do an interview. Like if I did this interview with you, it would be taped in your office.
Of course.
You would take it back. You would edit it. Then when you can put it in your slot for people to see it, whether it was a month, 2 months, 3 months, then it would come out.
Right.
Now everything is instant. So you have the capabilities. And then also, people just, this is a computer.
Yeah.
This is not a phone. It's a computer that has a phone attached to it.
Yeah, it's the last thing it is a phone.
I don't understand when I ask people, a lot of people, certain things, these new entrepreneurs that they don't know. And I'm like, you're not reading enough, you're not researching enough, you're not doing something, because this thing is a tool. So if you need to know something, you find out.
Yeah.
If it's not popping up the way you want it to pop up, restructure your question, but find the answer.
Yeah.
And my mother always told me, she said, everybody ain't you. And I'm like, Mom, but I get frustrated because I'm like, who am I? I just follow through. I'm not doing anything that's out of this world. If I don't know something, I'm going to find out.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to stop find out.
Keith, most people are intellectually lazy. That's the truth of it. And I think that people are waiting to get lucky. And as you know, and as I know, luck is a result of damn hard work.
No, you can't. You can't rely on anybody. We didn't rely on anybody to do anything. You know what, Dub? I was in here one day putting up light bulbs.
Yeah.
Me. I was in here putting up light bulbs. A young lady saw me who was doing business with us, walked in, and one of the guys said, hey, this is Keith Perrin. This is Damon's partner on FUBU. And she's looking at me on the ladder, and she's like, So I get down, I shake her hand, I say, hey, how you doing? Pleasure to meet you. Talk to her for a few seconds, and then she walks away, and then I see her at an event that we were having here, and she turns around to me and she says, this is Keith, this is Damon's partner. Let me tell you about Keith.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? We met this woman once, right? So I said, what are you gonna say? And she's like, I came here, and the first time I was here, I met Keith, and Keith was on a ladder putting up light bulbs. Now, this guy is the co-founder of FUBU, yet he was on a ladder putting up light bulbs. And the reason why I was putting up the light bulbs was I was actually adjusting the light bulbs. I wasn't putting up light bulbs. I was just adjusting them because they were in my eyes. And what I'm going to go, hey, could you get a stool over there and move that light bulb up? Nobody was here. So, everybody was working, so I did it myself. I don't look at that as demeaning or anything like that, because I always feel like whatever needs to be done needs to be done.
You've got to be willing to do it. Absolutely.
Like people, I've seen Daymond grab a box or grab something, throw it on his shoulder. When he has a few people around him, he said, I got it.
Sure.
And then he's like, everybody's like, Daymond, can I get it? He's like, no, I got it. And that's just something that we came up with, because we was actually sit in the house, pack the boxes, fold the clothes. I used to go to the store, and literally, no BS. I used to go to the store because I couldn't fold the shirts right. I was like, how the hell? And they were like, no, you got to fold it so it fit in the box the right way. And so I went to the store, and I looked at them, and I was like, how they fold these shirts in here? They had this piece of board that they would put on the shirt, and they would fold it, boom, 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 and slide the board out. And I was like, oh. That's how it goes. Went back home, and that increased my product line of folding these shirts.
Sure.
Tremendously.
But you were willing to go and find out, which is what most people are not willing to do. And that is a great piece of entrepreneurial advice, and I just love it. We've got to finish up, but I want to ask you this question.
Yes.
What's the one thing you hope will be on your gravestone?
I have this famous quote that I love, and I was thinking about it the other day. I'm going to do today what others won't, so I can live tomorrow like others can't.
Fantastic. I love it.
All right.
So, Keith, tell our listeners, our viewers, where they can find out more about you, about FUBU Radio, or about any of the things that you want to talk about, where they can research you.
Well, I'm on Instagram at Keezo, Keeyzo. I'm on Twitter as Mr. Keezo, Keeyzo. MR, Keeyzo. I'm on Facebook at Keith C. Perrin Jr. And you can always catch me on FUBU Radio .com. That's my station. And that's where I'm at.
Cool. Well, it's been great having you here, and I hope you'll stay with us right to the very end. It's been awesome having you on. Thank you. It's been a great show. I think you've shared some really great gems, and it's really important. I mean, I say this to on all of my shows. Please don't listen to this show. If you're just going to listen, it's not going to do anything. Play it back. Take notes. Decide on an action, and then reach out to Keith through Twitter or through one of the other social media outlets, and let him know what you got out of it. The guy gave his time, it's not cheap, gave his time to be here with you and add a ton of value to you. Make sure you value it. So put it in action. Write to Keith, let him know that you got a lot out of the show. It was great having you here, Keith. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. To everybody else, I want to thank you for joining us and tuning in today. And remember, the research shows that consistently the companies that get to the top and stay there are purpose-driven. If you're truly serious about having a laser beam clarity about your company's purpose, even if you think you have one already, and want to build a high-performance, highly engaged, authentic leadership culture that is fiercely loyal, then reach out to me, Dov Barron, at FullMontyLeadership.com, because that's what we do, because we provide the essential leadership skills for today's good leaders to become the great leaders of tomorrow, growing their people, growing their bottom line. FullMontyLeadership.com, providing you with the concrete soft skills to get you and your organization to the top and to keep you there, because you can't outsource authenticity. Remember, you can also go over to matrix.fullmontyleadership.com and you can get your authentic leadership matrix self-assessment. It's free for you because you're tuned in. Again, matrix like the movie, .fullmontyleadership.com. Till next time, this is Dov Barron, FullMontyLeadership.com, saying stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about what you still need to know, as Keith said. Stay curious about what you still need to know. Don't go in half-assed, and do your homework. Till next time, this is Dov Barron, and I am out.